All right, we're recording. All right. Hi, my name is Anna Ardeline. I am the Vice President of External Affairs for the University of Southern Indiana Student Government Association. I'm a junior political science major, and today I am here with Angie Nussmeier, who is an attorney with the Indiana Elections Commission. Hello, Angie.
How are you? I'm great. Thanks for having me, Anna. It's so nice to talk to you about elections, which is something I enjoy talking about every day. I would talk
Yeah.
about it all day, every day if I could.
Oh, me too. The poor student body would tell you the same. Well, I'm so excited to get to chat with you about some questions that a lot of students have had around campus. SGA has been out registering voters and talking with students about their vote plan and trying to answer as many questions as we can. But also, we don't want to be legally responsible if we're wrong. And so that's where you come in.
All right.
You are a lot smarter than we are, and we're excited to learn from you. Yeah, so would you like to talk about, what you do and stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm actually not an attorney for the division. I am the co-director of the election division. So our agency is a bipartisan agency where I'm the Democratic co-director and I have a Republican counterpart in the office. And then we each have staff that are here that do different things. Like I have an attorney, my counterpart also has an attorney. We have people who specialize in voter registration and campaign finance. And so what we do, we're kind of this oddball state agency, if you will, where not only are we bipartisan and have to agree on certain things in order for it to be the official position of the division, we support a 4-member commission, the Indiana Election Commission. There's 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the commission. They are nominated by their state party chairs, appointed by the governor to serve a 2-year term. And they deal with issues that you might see at the local level with the county election boards, dealing with campaign finance enforcement or complaints or other types of issues that might require investigation. Obviously, 2020 has been a crazy year for elections. And so what the commission has done a lot this year, we've probably met more than most commissions have in the past to deal with an election during a pandemic. And so they worked together in the spring to put together a plan to move the primary election back a month and then modified some of our election laws. And so the commission really has the responsibility in the state to administer election laws and to make those changes. In this case, under powers that we felt the commission had in their emergency rulemaking area. And so our agency not only supports the commission and their responsibilities and duties, but we're also a division of the Secretary of State's office, where we will partner with her from time to time on certain issues and initiatives. Probably the biggest project we're working on this year is working with her office on CARES Act funding to help reimburse counties for costs related to the pandemic, and using those dollars to do additional outreach and buying personal protective equipment for the counties for this election cycle, both in June and this November. So there's a lot going on here these days, and it's exciting. It's always exciting to be in the division and working directly with party officials, elected officials, constituents. There's always a lot of questions that are flowing through the office this time of year, and it's really great to be able to engage with people and help them understand what election law is and isn't, and to sort of deal with the misinformation, sometimes very well-intentioned. People think they understand what the law is, and it's nice to be able to explain and put a finer point on it for people so that then they can go out and be ambassadors for elections. So that's why I'm really excited that you extended this opportunity for me to come and talk to you and to the students at USI about elections. So hopefully you all can be ambassadors for what is and what isn't right as it relates to elections moving forward.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Your guys' work is so important, and we're so lucky to have you, like, statewide. That's awesome. Well,
Thanks.
sweet. So now to the super fun part, the questions.
Okay.
When is the last day to register to vote in Indiana?
So our statewide registration deadline is 29 days before the election. So in this case, it's Monday, October 5th. So it's right around the corner.
Heck yeah. So to you at home, register to vote. Okay, can I register to vote at my campus address if I'm an Indiana resident?
Right. So actually what Indiana law says, it changed a few years ago, that a college student can be registered at home or at their school address, whichever the student prefers, but they should not be, or they should prefer not be registered in both places. So you need to decide what your residence is. It's either your dorm, right, or your apartment in your college community, wherever you're living, or it's back home where you might be returning and living in the summer. But you as a student have to make that decision and call.
Sure. And then can I register at my campus address if I'm from out of state?
Sure, yes. Again, Indiana law says that a student can be registered at where they consider their home base or at their college address. It just depends on what they consider their residence and where they want to be registered to vote.
Okay, I did not know that. That is interesting. If I want to vote in person, but I'm registered at my home address outside of Evansville, can I go to a polling location in Evansville to vote?
So that's a great question, and it can be confusing for people because they don't necessarily understand a lot of the granular parts of what goes on in an election. So I think most of people are familiar with census blocks. They are the tiniest unit of government, if you will, that we as election administrators use to build precincts. And precincts are a small subdivision. Sometimes it's an entire township if you're living in a rural area, and sometimes in urban areas, it's a city block. It's like the smallest unit of government as it relates to elections and the work that we do. And so what your precinct tells you is what your DNA is for the ballot, because that precinct, every county has a precinct key where every single elected office is represented, and it's noted which elected office goes to which precinct. So if you live in Marion County, but you go to school in Vanderburgh County, and you're registered to vote in Marion County and you want to come back home, Vanderburgh County is not going to have your ballot, right? Because that precinct is not in Vanderburgh County. They don't know what the DNA is for your ballot. That's why you have to travel back home to Marion County, because your precinct is in Marion County and only the Marion County Election Board knows how to create and print your ballot. So while it would be nice that if you didn't want to travel to go back to Marion County and drive 3 hours up 69 to get here to go and vote, really that is what you need to do if you want to vote in person. Vanderburgh County would not have access to your specific ballot.
Sure.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, good.
Definitely some people have kind of been confused about that. They've been planning to vote in Evansville without registering in Evansville. But then
Gotcha.
Vanderburgh County has moved to vote centers. So you don't have to vote in your precinct. You can vote anywhere in the county. Is that correct?
Right, but every voting system will have the precinct stored in it. So every voting system has a piece of media in it that acts as the brain for that voting system. And it contains every single precinct's ballot on it when you're talking about a vote center environment. Mm-hmm. So when you walk in, if you're in precinct 1, the poll workers are going to go and call up precinct 1's ballot on that machine for you, right? So the machine is going to do that work for you. So you're still voting in your precinct. It's just that your precinct is no longer tied to one specific polling place. It is now tied to all of the polling places within your community in Vanderburgh County.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
If I am registered once, will I ever become unregistered?
So what's important to know about our state's voter registration rules is that once you are registered to vote, unless you move or change your name, you're going to continue to be registered to vote at that residence address for most people. I guess I'll leave it at that. And why I say for most people is that we as a state are required to send out every 2 years a statewide postcard mailer. And if for some reason that postcard mailer is returned as undeliverable, and then a second notice is sent to you, if you don't return that notice, then you can be put into inactive status. And if you don't vote in any election from the date that you are made inactive through 2 even numbered election years, November elections. So if I were made inactive in August 2020, I could vote in the November 2020 election if there were special elections held in 2021, or I could vote in the May 2022 election or the November 2022 election. If I vote in any of those elections at the registration address where I'm currently registered in the system, then that inactive status falls off and you're back to being what we call an active voter. If you don't vote in those elections, it's presumed that you no longer live at that residence. And so then you are moved into canceled status. Your record never goes away in the system. It will just show canceled. So if that was done incorrectly, you can always have that restored. I'm sorry, I'm getting a call. Does that mess up the screen? I apologize.
Oh, you're back.
Okay, I'm sorry. Somebody was calling me on the phone. Sorry, so if you were in that canceled status, then let's say that was done incorrectly, or you continue to reside at that address, you just have to tell poll workers, I do actually continue still living at that address, and you sign in, you make an affirmation or sign an affidavit, and then you're able to vote a regular ballot. And then, of course, if you pass away, your registration is moved into canceled status. We get data from the Social Security Death Master File and local health departments and the state health department. Counties can use obituaries to make those cancellations. And then probably the one rule that's the most confusing to people, because it's different in every state. You've probably heard this too. I've been convicted of a felony. I can't register again. Well, that might be true in some states, but that's not the rule in Indiana. Instead, what the rule in Indiana is that if you are currently imprisoned following conviction of a crime, your right to vote is taken away from you. The county can actually move your registration status into canceled, and we get information from the Department of Corrections, and then the Sheriff's Department will send information to the county clerks too. But once you're released, even if you're on probation, parole, home detention, or enrolled in a community corrections program, you're able to re-register and vote. The important thing is that you do in fact re-register, because your registration likely is put into canceled. You will want to re-register to vote because we do restore voting rights upon release from jail or from prison. So that's something to keep in mind if you're out and about and you're engaging with people on registration, that in our state, a person's right to vote is never permanently taken away. Once a person is released, then they're able to re-register and they are permitted to vote.
Awesome. So most of our students are younger, and so they don't, hopefully it won't come up that they haven't, lived in that place for 2 years or whatever. But just in case, how can a student check to make sure that they're still registered at their current address?
Sure. So what state law requires if you want to be registered is that you live in your precinct for 30 days leading up to the election, which is why we have that 29-day cutoff before the election. So you don't really have to live in the precinct for 30 days and then register to vote. You just have to be living in that precinct for the 30 days right before the election. So if you're out there and you don't know that residency rules apply to you, they most likely do. So if you want to check to see if you're registered to vote or not sure if you're registered at the right address, or you just want that reassurance that you're still in the system, you can go to indianavoters.com. So it's indianavoters with an S.com, and you can either register for the first time or check your registration status. And I will point out that if you want to check your registration status, it's important that you enter your name as it appears on the registration record. And so I go by Angie, but my given name is Angela. I'm registered as Angela. So I have to type in Angela when I go to indianavoters.com. I can't get away with a shorthand of Angie. It'll tell me that there's not a match. So just make sure when you're engaging in the system that you are, in fact, using the name that you registered to vote. And then particularly for college students, I would think your county of residence, again, because college students are able to be registered to vote at home or at school, their county of residence is actually where they're registered to vote. So if they're going to school in Vanderburgh County, but they live in Perry County and they are registered to vote in Perry County, they would pick Perry County because that's where they're registered. It may not be where they're living, but that's where they're registered. So just make sure that you're also putting in the county where you're actually registered.
Awesome. Sweet. And now kind of shifting gears,